Do you want to do more than follow orders, think outside of the box, and manifest your dreams? Then you've come to the right show. Welcome to the award-winning podcast, Holding Down the Fort by US VetWealth. I'm your host, Jen Amos, a Gold Star daughter, veteran spouse, and entrepreneur. For Season 7, I am ecstatic to be in partnership with the Rosie Network to highlight motivational stories of personal growth, financial awareness, and autonomy in our military community. Now, let's get started. All right, hey everyone, got a question for you. Have you ever thought about scaling a long-time hobby into a full-time business? Well, for this episode, I am so excited to be talking to Jacob Mousseau, who is the founder and CEO of Wounded Woodworkers. And I had the fortune of speaking with Jacob to share his journey of starting a woodworking hobby club about 8 years ago, after leaving the military earlier than expected. He found woodworking to be therapeutic for himself and other veterans. However, the club had to stop meeting in person when safety and liability concerns arose. This prompted Jacob to shift his focus to creating personalized gifts with laser engraving. After graduating from the Rosie Network's 2023 Service to CEO program, he started to consider how growing his hobby into a business can increase his impact and donations to nonprofits supporting veterans. At the same time, he finds himself at a crossroads as he works a full-time job and values prioritizing his family responsibilities. I hope you enjoyed today's conversation. Jacob will share his hopes to generate enough revenue to hire help and continue donating to nonprofits while sustaining a work-life balance. If you want to get a hold of Jacob as you are listening to this conversation today, remember to check out the show notes of this episode on your preferred podcasting app. If you do not know how to do that, you could always open up a browser, whether it's via mobile or desktop, and look up the website, Holding Down the Fort Podcast. For the search bar on the very top of our website, go ahead and plug in the numbers 163. That's episode 163. And there you will find Jacob's episode, as well as ways to get a hold of him, such as his website, his socials, his email, etc., etc. This conversation is an ad-free conversation thanks to my company here at US VetWealth. We are all about offering tailored financial services for our military retirees. If you want to learn more about our company, we have a free podcast portal that you can check out at holdingdownthefortpodcast.com/portal. And in this free portal that you can join, you will get bonus content from this show, and you'll get all the free resources, especially if you are a transitioning career military family looking to have a better understanding of, what options are available for you in the private market if you are looking to have a better understanding of that. And so we provide all that for free in our portal. Once again, if you want to join, thanks to US VetWealth, we have a free portal in which you can get access to the bonus content for our show and for free financial education from our company, US VetWealth. All you got to do is sign up at holdingdownthefortpodcast.com/portal. All right, last but not least, whether this is your first time listening to the show or you've been following Season 7 so long, I want to go ahead and ask you for your grace once again. It's funny because when I was doing this conversation with Jacob, I loved how he just embraced showing up authentically, even though he wasn't set up in the way he wanted to. He would have preferred to have a better setup. And I'll let him explain that more if you all ever have any questions. And of course, funny enough, my audio quality this season has been different, from past seasons. And I only found out after the fact, after I finished the recordings. I will probably talk about this more in the post commentary. For now, I just want to ask you for your grace and understanding. And if it helps, I enjoy listening to podcasts myself at 2 times speed because I can really digest content pretty quickly that way. But for you, if it's your first time, maybe 1.25 speed is a good place to start. And I tend to find that just speeding up the audio quality just a little will help you digest the content better and not be so, I want to say, taken by my different audio quality. for season 7. So thank you for your grace and understanding, and stick around in the outro for my post commentary. Other than that, thanks again, Jacob, for being on our show, and I'll chat with you all later. Enjoy this conversation. All right. And today I have with me Jacob Mousseau. Jacob, welcome to Holding Down the Forts by US VetWealth and the Rosie Network, season 7.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Jen.
Yeah, I thought I would have us start off with a warm-up, an icebreaker question. So I have a deck of cards here, and I'm just going to go through it, and you just tell me when to stop, and I'm going to pull out a question for you just to warm us up.
Ooh, this is mysterious. Okay. How about now?
Okay, here it is. Okay, would you consider yourself, it's a very fun question. Do you consider yourself a hopeless romantic? Yes or no? And whatever it is, explain.
Yeah, I think I'll go with yes on this. And it's just funny story, right? So my now brother-in-law used to be my brother in arms.
Ooh.
We served together downrange. I was living with him when we got back because didn't want to live in the barracks. And his wife's sister came to spend the summer with us, and it took them to set us up together. And now we're married, so now we're brother-in-law, brother in arms.
Aww.
But like, I definitely really wasn't the like go out after folks. So like, it was nice having that help.
I think like I've definitely dabbled in like online dating in the past, but like my husband was introduced to me through a mutual friend, and I just wouldn't have it. And I mean, I'm grateful that that's how it ended up. And, in your situation, you're like, yeah, I wouldn't be the one going in the bars or going out and like, so it's just great to know that it was an introduction through, a mutual friend. And now you guys are more than just brother in arms, but you're brother-in-laws, and that's amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, thank you for entertaining that, and congratulations in finding your person. I feel like once we find, I understand that divorce is very real, but I feel like for the most part, when you find your person, it's like, okay, great. I can check that off my list and live my life. And I know for you, we talked about this prior to this call, that you're a family man. And so, I think that a lot of what we'll talk about today is doing what you do, like, so that you can spend time with your family. And so, I'm sure your wife is very lucky to have you and know that family is incredibly important to you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So Jacob, your story is that you are, I guess, what we would consider like a professional hobbyist. You have been
absolutely.
You've been doing like woodworking for the last 8 years, and it's only now that you've decided to, take your hobby to the next level. But let's backtrack a little bit and talk about 8 years ago when you started in woodworking. And I know that it wasn't just out of the blue. Like I think your family has a history of woodworking. Is that correct?
Yes. Yep, that's correct.
Yeah. So tell us about that time early on when you started Wounded Woodworkers.
Yes, absolutely. I may have to change the name after this. No.
No.
But yeah, so, I transitioned out of the military back in 2015, and it was rather unexpected. And my contract ended up getting cut short, got a severance check from the military, which I didn't know they did that, and had this money, and just, I was like, I know my family, like father and grandfather, like they were carpenters, built houses. And I was like, well, I'm sure I could probably figure it out. I never had experience in it personally. And, I just bought a shop and a bunch of tools, and, I found woodworking pretty therapeutic, and it kind of helped me with like my own healing that I was dealing with from just trauma in the military. And, I realized that other veterans enjoyed this as well. So I started inviting, friends over, and, just other veterans I found online or in the community, and we just kind of became a club. And we came up with the name Wounded Woodworkers because we were just a bunch of disabled veterans building furniture for beer money. And
there you go.
That's kind of just where we started. Yeah.
No, I think that's really amazing, and I definitely don't want to gloss over your abrupt transition to civilian life. So can you tell us a little bit about that? It sounds like that wasn't something you were planning for.
Yeah, absolutely. So 2013, 2014, I was in 159 Aviation Brigade here at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. We were deployed. I took that time to re-enlist overseas so I could have the option of, the re-enlistment option of like my choosing. So I chose to have stabilization so I could stay at Fort Campbell for another 3 or 4 years. And everything went well. We came back from deployment, ended up having a knee surgery, and then the big Army or Department of Defense, not sure who, but they chose to inactivate the entire brigade. So
Wow.
there was a few thousand of us displaced. And when that happened, basically voided out my reenlistment. So my contract came to an end, and here I am thinking I got a few more years in the military, all's good. And next thing I know, they're like, well, you're going to be a civilian in a couple months. So you're going to start transitioning, turn in all your equipment, and then we're going to give you a lot of money to help you. But little did they tell you then is, you got to pay that back, which I had no idea then either. So,
oh my goodness. I'm here.
That was a nice surprise.
Yeah, I'm here thinking like, okay, cool. I got like, a pool of cash. Like I'm gonna be fine for a while. This is okay. But like, I can't even wow. I mean, I'm sure there's a whole conversation for another time, but to know that you have to pay it back. Wow. Just wow.
Yep. It was a huge surprise.
Yeah. So it's been almost a decade now, since your sudden transition. What comes to mind for you when you look back at that time? Is that still like a sore spot for you, or maybe like a blessing in disguise? Like, how do you see that time now?
Yeah, very much a blessing.
Wonderful.
I mean, I love the military. I had every intention of making a career, retiring. It just didn't work out. And honestly, it was really good just because, I didn't have to PCS, didn't have to deploy again, no more field time. I really got to have that time to grow my relationship with my wife and become a civilian, learn all the things not to do the hard way. And, that's actually helped lead to where I am career wise. So, I mean, incredible transition for that. I mean, it was definitely absolute blessing because who knows where the military would have took me.
Yeah, I'm really happy to hear that because often when I hear stories of that sudden transition, it could still be, yes, I'm really glad it's a blessing in disguise. And I know for some people, it's still a bit of a sore spot. It's still like, hey, I wasn't planning on getting out early. It's just awful how they just let go of me like that, but I'm just really happy to hear that, things turned out for the better for you. And obviously we wouldn't have Wounded Woodworkers hadn't that had happened. And so post-military, you have this time and, this additional income that, later we find out you have to pay back for. But at the time you had this money and you decided to start your club. And tell us a little bit about that experience of being with other veterans and being able to do this work together.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will tell you, just to go back real quick, that yes, the transition was a blessing, but it was by far the hardest year of my life trying to figure that out. So that's kind of got me to where I am now and led to the group. But to answer that question, it was awesome. So I really didn't think it was going to be the way it was. I just thought we'd be hanging out, building furniture, selling it, making money. I really didn't think much of it. I went to a couple craft shows, but in doing this, I realized that, in a way it was therapeutic just in nature of the actual woodworking and doing it. If you make a mistake, you can easily sand it off and, start over. But there's a lot of peer support that was involved. I'm sitting here with a couple other vets. Sometimes it was just one-on-one. And, you get to dig a little bit deeper into other people's lives and see what they're going through and, explain to them, they're not alone. I've got similar feelings. So hey, I've been there. And that's not something that I can talk to my wife about just because she wasn't super familiar with the military when we got together. And so it's much easier to speak with other warriors and people that can relate to what you've gone through. And it was really nice.
Yeah. And I imagine that it was therapeutic in a sense where you're not just sitting around in a circle and talking about everything that you all experienced in the military. It was like you were keeping your hands busy and helping each other out and making your woodworking process even better and your product better. And I think it sounds like maybe from that, people felt more felt comfortable, opening up and connecting with each other and relating about your experiences in the military. So it's just nice to hear that there was, even though it's woodworking, it was really a way, a good icebreaker for all of you to bond and give each other that peer support.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I think that's really awesome. And so I know that something unfortunate happened. Someone got injured and you had to put the club aside. So tell us a little bit about that time. I imagine that wasn't, that wasn't very pleasant considering how the club was very therapeutic and, like a peer support for everyone involved.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, you would think my wife was the one that got injured in this scenario, just the way from the reaction. But yeah, I mean, obviously we're using some pretty dangerous tools.
Mm-hmm.
And so, one of the worst was using our table saw and, we're just cutting a piece of wood down. And somehow, I don't know, we had all the safeties on, the guard and everything, but it ended up shooting a piece of wood back and getting them in the stomach. So It wasn't, like a terrible injury. However, it was eye-opening.
Yeah.
Just because here I am, just a guy with a shop and tools and inviting people over without really thinking about all the liabilities, insurance, and things that could be needed.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I had been working with this employer for, a while. We were good friends. It wasn't that bad. Mm-hmm. So, it didn't turn into anything bad, but did freak me and my wife out. So,
yeah,
we stopped doing that. I still have all the tools and equipment in the shop, but I shifted gears. I went to the PX one day, so on Fort Campbell, and there was this company that had this laser, just in the front of the shop. And they were engraving little Jack Daniel's bottles or something with like people's name and rank on it. And that was like my first entryway. It was like my gateway laser because I just got addicted right there on the spot. I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. Like, how much do these things cost? Like, can I just go sit up anywhere and do this? And it kind of led to where I am now, having a laser. And I definitely didn't just buy it the next day, but it took a little bit of time to get this. But, that was kind of where I shifted Woodworkers to something else. And now I'm kind of thinking I can create products and I can still give back and, get back to that peer support type of thing where I'm helping woodworkers and their families. It's just not me personally doing it. So, off the sales, I can help donate to nonprofits that do the work and I can still feel good about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Without any liability. So it's good to hear that the person that got injured didn't sue you or, because you guys knew each other well enough that it wasn't intentional, in any way to get them injured. And however, that was a good sign, for you and your wife to be like, okay, we, probably should pivot here and make sure that we don't let this repeat again.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And, I know today you decided to keep the name of your club at that time. And I'm curious if at that time, was it formalized or was it more of like, oh, this is an informal club and this is the name of it?
Yeah, no, it was 100% informal. Right?
Yeah.
I even had a different logo there.
Oh, okay.
It was terrible, but the name stuck. It's important to me and like what I do and mission. And honestly, I've had all the handles for all the social medias for so many years. I just figured I'd just keep it. It'd be way more challenging coming up with something new, even though it's a tongue twister. I was like, I want to keep it.
Yeah. I mean, even though I obviously was tongue twisted early on, I think it's a clever name. And Wounded Woodworkers, if you just got to say it slowly. I feel like, and then you're able to get it down. But I challenge anyone to say that 5 times fast. But yeah, you wanted to keep the brand. So tell us a little bit about, the reasoning behind your brand. I mean, I think the title itself is obvious, but the slogan from what I'm seeing in your backdrop here is engraving memories and honoring heroes. Tell us about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is where the shift came. So, the focus of the woodworking at first was, to provide therapy to others and the peer support. And when I had to remove myself from the liability of that, I still wanted to do it. Like my entire life, even my full-time career is about giving back to those who have served. I mean, that is important to me. So, and then honestly, this shift in the economy is really what ignited it the most. And I saw firsthand how nonprofits were suffering. Donations were down. I mean, a lot of people out there still want to provide support, but financially they can't,
Yeah.
So how I want to have the, business structured is, and why the name and all this is, I still want to provide support to wounded warriors and their families and through woodworking. So I have to sell a product in order to raise this money. That way I can donate it to the organizations that can provide the support that I can't. So, and that's super important to me though. It's like the mission behind it, not so much the product or what I do, mostly just the mission of helping.
Yeah. And one thing that we talked about offline is, the thing with entrepreneurship is people don't always have, it's not always financial. Like not everyone's reasons to be in business is to just make money. I mean, of course we need to make money, we need to keep the lights on and, pay for overhead and all the things, but also I think what keeps people in the game, what keeps people in business is the impact, like knowing that you are serving people. And, I know that's something that is important to you and something that you are aspiring to do as, you are intentionally like working out the details to take this to the next level. Absolutely.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah. So tell us now about the Rosie Network, because I know that the Rosie Network opened up your eyes to a lot of things, like some things you didn't know, but some things you didn't realize that you already had.
Sure. Yeah. So the Rosie Network is where the light, flipped on, essentially. For the longest time, I've had the laser for years. I've been creating products. However, it's been just a hobby, people's birthdays, Christmas time, not a lot of thought behind it. And when I experienced the Rosie Network, which, coincidentally, it was just because I wanted to see what it was about before telling other people about the opportunity. I wanted to make sure that I tried it. And that way, when I'm telling others what it's like, I can explain it, so I didn't intend on starting a business or, becoming an entrepreneur at all. Never had any clue that it would be something I'd be doing for sure. Like, definitely not me. But going through the class, it was very eye-opening just because it's a cohort setting. So you're with other veterans or military spouses who either have a business and they're trying to grow it, or maybe they're in the idea stage and they're just trying to figure things out. And you get to work with these folks every week. And each week you learn about a topic about, business, starting with like your why, the mission, the vision, everything. And it's cool just seeing how other people grow and what they talk about and bouncing ideas off of each other. And when I started telling the rest of the class about what I do, they're like, well, why aren't you rich? Like, why, and I'm just like, well, I don't know. I just kind of make it for friends and family and, word of mouth right now. Didn't really think much about it just because I'm focused full time on my career.
Yeah.
This is more of a hobby, but they're like, well, your hobby can make money. So I started really focusing more on the things I might have been missing because honestly, I didn't realize that I had so much of the business already. I just didn't realize I could be a business. So, the 12-week class really just opened my eyes, gave me a lot of resources, provided me some mentors that have really helped me. And, now I'm just trying to see where I can go.
Yeah. What were some of the things that, your cohort members and your mentors said, like, Jacob, you already got this. Like, what are some of those things you already had?
Yeah. Well, I had a business plan kind of like, it wasn't like an official one, but like I already had like the mission and vision and goals and like ideas. I was already making products. I already had customers.
Yeah.
I was keeping track of my sales, in Excel, which I still doing. But, I had all this, down. I just didn't really, I don't know. I'm still missing like the legal entity, sole proprietor currently, but obviously that's not very safe. Back to the liability thing, right? So I'm working on that. So like, there's just a couple like legal things, and then bookkeeping and taxes. That's should be the next step. But other than that, like I've already had the social media. I've already been dealing with customers, creating things for them, getting reviews. But I was still in the mindset of like, oh, this is just a hobby,
Yeah.
So so they just kind of made it click really easily for me. It's like, you already do this, or you already have this. Like, why are you even in this class? And I'm like, because I don't know what I'm doing, right? Like, just because I have equipment and I can make something and sell it doesn't mean I know anything about running a business. So
yeah,
I learned a lot.
yeah. This whole like, okay, well, I have everything and it's good and like everyone likes it, but I just haven't done the legal stuff. It kind of sounds like, I don't know why I'm making this comparison, but it just sounds like you've had a girlfriend for so long, and then everyone's like, when are you going to propose to her? When are you going to get married? And so that's kind of what it sounds like. And it seems like, the cohort partner is like, hey, you got to legalize this. You got to do all these things. And so anyway, that was just like the analogy that kind of popped up in my head hearing you talking. And you know what, though? Like, one thing I learned, like when I first started in business, I did start with all the legal stuff. Like I filed a fictitious name. I got my agreements down, all the formal things that I thought I had to do. But I feel like when I actually turned on the business, I kind of knew nothing about sales and marketing, and I didn't have a network just yet of, I had to actively build that out. And I feel like at the time I was more caught up in the legal details than I was in actually like, the sales and building a clientele. And so I think that you definitely started off on the right foot to focus on, offering value first, because some people can do all the formal stuff initially, kind of like, you get your real estate license or you become like a life insurance agent. But like, I think what most people don't know or don't realize once they get licensed, it's kind of like getting a college degree. Like just because you get a college degree, it doesn't mean you're going to get a job like right outside of college. Like you still have to market yourself. You got to put your resume out there. And I think that you started off the right way. You focused on doing something you love and bringing together a bunch of other veterans who enjoyed it, and, having a clientele and having all these reviews and actually, generating sales. And so honestly, if I had to, pick between someone who's just getting started and doing all the legal stuff versus someone in your situation, I'd go with your situation. And I hope like that is a very advantageous situation to be in, where it's like, now you just got to formalize it, like now you just, now you got to get married, you know what I mean? Like now you got to like do the formal stuff. And I, and I think that there's no one way to do business. Like there's so many different routes to becoming an entrepreneur. And that's what I find, that's what I like about your story. It's like, okay, I was like, I was this hobbyist for a long time, and now all you have to do is formalize it. Like when you're ready to do that.
Yep. Almost there. I'm working on it.
Yeah. So, like I know you mentioned that donations are really down across the board right now when it comes to nonprofits. And I know that part of what you want to do is, build up your hobby into a business in a way that you could donate. But also, I think what we talked about offline is you're a little bit at a crossroads as well. It's like how much of your time and energy can you put in your business, while also balancing your full-time job, while also making sure family time is important. So tell us a little bit about that, this place you're in right now, where it's like you want to get there, but, there's a lot of things going on at the same time before you to get there.
Yeah. Well, I'll first start off with highly caffeinated. So, definitely wouldn't be able to do it without caffeine or sleep. Can't really spend much time doing that, which, obviously not an advocate for, that's important. However, I am at that crossroads because I'm in a weird situation, right? A lot of people become entrepreneurs because they want to be their own boss. Maybe they hate what they do or whatnot, but I'm in a weird place, right? I love my job. I'm passionate about it. It's incredible. Like if I could literally do both of these things full time, I would.
Yeah.
I just haven't figured that part out yet because I've got a family, and it's about to get bigger. So,
congratulations! That's exciting.
Thank you. I know. So now it's really changed my mindset, right? Because I'm like, I feel like I'm almost there. However, like I would love to hire someone to like take over most of it while I can still be here and run it if they need. But I'm just not there yet, right? Like I don't have the customer base or money yet. So like. And I'm leaning both ways, right? Like I could go 100% in on this and chance it, or just continue to do what I love every day. And I know I'm getting paid from my current, full-time job, and just work this out, So I'm gonna just work on growing this slowly. I know I've talked to a lot of mentors, and they're like, you got to go fall in, you got to take the leap. And yeah. I mean, I understand that. But my situation is very unique. So, I mean, I don't have to.
Yeah. If you're fed, you're not hungry, meaning like you are in a wonderfully unique situation where you enjoy your job. And here's the thing. I really don't like this idea that you have to hate your job to do entrepreneurship. I mean, yes, I have a similar story where like I got into entrepreneurship just because I couldn't hold down a job, and it was really coming from a negative place. But I'd like to believe that you could start a business out of joy, not out of like anger or bitterness or, but I don't know. Because obviously this is the situation you're in. And, I'd be very curious to hear other people's stories who've been able to like work full time and have their business on the side, but not hate their job. Like it is a very unique situation. And it's my hope that if you choose to stick with this, you're going to be one of those testimonies or testimonials like, yeah, you could have it all. You can enjoy your job and you can enjoy your business. But I think it sounds to me like for you, it's more of like bandwidth. It's like, how do you find the time to do that? How do you generate enough revenue to, like you said, hire, one or two people to help you? Obviously, you still want to be involved because you love this work. But at the same time, like it's got to grow so that you can create more impact with these nonprofits who are struggling for donations. And that's really important for you to serve in that way and give back in that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I just wish that, I hate the word wish, right? Wish and hope, but, the goal would be, yes, to do exactly that. So, I mean, hope I get there.
Yeah. Well, let's just entertain the idea. Like, what would it look like for you to get there? Like, if you, I don't know, like, what do you think, what else do you think you need for you to start that path to get there, to get there, to hire someone, to get that help? Like, how do you think, if we actually did something about it, well, how would that play out? What do you think? We're just brainstorming right now. We're not asking for like ultimate answers here, but since we're dreaming, why not dream big, right? Like, why not continue to brainstorm these ideas and flesh them out?
Yeah. And I put a lot of thought into this, not this exact answer, but the scenario. I'm kind of at that point where everything's ready. Everything's in line, everything's set up, other than the entity.
Yeah.
But I just need to have the more help with like the marketing aspect and generating the clients. Everything else is there. Like I get customers, but it's not enough to like justify anything. It's pennies on a dollar right now. So as long as I can create that, whether it's business to business or business to customer, either way will work. But I just need to start getting that to happen before. Yeah. And it's all like, I feel like I'm just like one step away. I'm just kind of missing something, but working on, getting that figured out.
Yeah. It sounds to me, it's like you need to have your marketing strategy on, right? Because like if you want to have, in order to have more clients, you have to create more exposure. And I think part of that exposure is like marketing. So, I mean, obviously being on the show is part of that, I think.
Yeah.
And who knows, maybe like starting that path of like having a media kit, if the Rosie Network hadn't taught you that already, and, pitching your story to other podcast shows or, other media outlets. Like, I mean, that could possibly be an opportunity for you. But, it does sound like, there's like that one more thing. And, I think the beauty of your situation is that you have time, I think. And I know everyone's pressuring you to be like, you got to start now. You got to like go all the way. But it's like, you've been at this for 8 years. What's another year or 2 or 3, especially because you're going to, your family is about to get bigger. Like, what is genuinely the rush? And so anyway, that's a rhetorical question.
Well, that's perfect. And to anyone that may, be in this similar boat, I mean, I spend a lot of time listening to marketing podcasts, watching YouTubes on marketing and talking to marketers on LinkedIn. So, I mean, all you really got to do is, take that information in and then actually do something with it. So like right now I'm taking a lot of it in, taking the notes, and I'm just waiting to act, so like, and I'm probably slowing my own self down. Honestly, I could probably do it right now, but the bandwidth, like you mentioned, is kind of my problem at the moment.
Yeah. And I think that's completely valid. I've definitely had, seasons in my own entrepreneurial journey where, sometimes either I don't have enough time or I do have a lot of time and I don't know where to go next. But what I tend to find is most helpful is in those lull moments, like in those moments where you don't really know what to do. Education, like self-education really helps. So it's great that, even if you're not taking action just yet, you don't know, like maybe it's going to be that next podcast you listen to or that next audiobook you listen to or, something where you're like, okay, like I think I got the green light I need. And so I'm most optimistic for you, Jacob, and your journey. And, I'm just a very supportive person, but I just think that this is in your own time, because like, even if people are giving you all this advice, like you're the one living with the consequences, right? It's like, you don't want to sacrifice the time you want to have with your family, your growing family. And so it's just a journey you're on. And I think it's really good to just openly talk about this, to say, yeah, sure, people can chime in and give you advice and tell you where to go and what to do. But ultimately, it's your journey, it's your business, and it's your baby. So it's really up to you on where you want to take it. And I just, I think it's okay to be in the season of your life right now, Yeah, it gets me to think about my other project. I have a side project. It's like a passion project of mine. And I've been, kind of similar to you. I've had it for about, I don't know, like 6-7 years now. And although it's generating revenue, it's enough to pay for just the overhead, but it's not enough to like pay me, if that makes sense. And I just think to myself like, well, that's not my bread and butter. Like, I do run a business with my husband and that's paying the bills and I have a lot of work to do here. And I just think like my passion project, I still enjoy it. I learn a lot about myself in doing it. Like, what is genuinely the rush to make it successful? And, I think the entrepreneurial life is very like, you got to get on the fast track. You got to grow as fast as possible. It's like, there's always like this sense of urgency with this journey that I think can sometimes be a turnoff to some people, or it could be a disappointment because maybe they're disappointed in themselves for not like being as successful as they would want to be. So yeah. And I guess I'm just here to say that it's your journey, it's your life, it's your business, it's your brand. And if anyone hasn't told you lately, like it's okay. It's okay to be where you're at. And we're openly talking about it. And, and hopefully people who are listening who maybe have been, sitting on an idea or a hobby for a while won't be so hard on themselves, and I mean, sure, if you need that push, great. But again, like you have what you have and you clearly love what you do at your job. And, maybe all your mentors are like, do not listen to Jen, like how, she is giving you the worst advice ever. But I can recognize why you are where you are at, with your business.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. Yeah. I feel like it was like an odd pep talk we had just now.
I feel better about myself though.
Oh, good. I'm glad I can validate your situation. And it reminds me of like in the past when I talked to military spouses who, they had this business, like their business wasn't their bread and butter, but as soon as they still like went at it during the military life. And then when they transitioned out, that ended up being their full-time thing. Like they finally had the time to go all the way with it. And I just think that, it's great that you have this, because one day you will have the time to really grow it to its full potential. And I'm just optimistic for you. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. Well, anyway, didn't realize I was going to turn to a pep talk, but yeah, I'm curious to know now on your end, now that you're feeling better, I guess. I'm glad I helped you make you feel better. How would you say your journey could relate to the military and knowing what you even do for a living and, like coaching veterans on their own careers, like reflecting on it now, like, is there anything you want to say to our community today, to our military community?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. So, and it definitely relates more so with like military transition, just in general. I feel like myself included when I got out, but everyone that I speak with, and this is a daily basis with transitioning service members, is they sometimes feel tied to their MOS or their job that they've done for the last several years. But like once you're off base, you realize like it's a big world. And once you get out there into the wild, the civilian sector, we only make up like 6% of the workforce. So, there's thousands, if not millions. I mean, I don't even know, but there's at least thousands of different jobs out there that you can do. I mean, you can literally do anything you want. And that's like one of the biggest things that I honestly, even me, like I didn't think about. Like I transitioned out from the military doing human resources, and I tried to transition right into human resources and realized it's a little bit different. And I was really good at adapting to it, and it was a great career for a while, but not everyone has to do that. Like you can get out and do anything you want. You don't have to just, hey, I've got 20 years in logistics. I guess I'm going to do logistics. If you don't like logistics, go do something you like.
Right.
I just wish people found out what they're passionate about quicker in life. That way they can just save years of misery and, go get that job, because it's probably out there.
Do you feel like you observe that a lot, where a lot of transitioning service members just have to get the job, like whatever job they can get?
Yeah, every day.
Wow.
Like even today, for an example, I was at Fort Campbell teaching a transition class for LinkedIn and networking. And I was speaking to all of them, and none of them really know what they want to do when they get out, but they know that they need something fast because, financial insecurity, benefits, they may be the breadwinner in the household. Yeah. And it's stressful, and they feel like they just need to take that first thing coming. And statistically, that speaks volumes, because it's like 80-something% of transitioning service members leave their first job in the first year, and the other 20s the second year. So So statistically, they just hop in the job, and usually it doesn't last. But if they can think about it earlier, really figure out what they enjoy in life, and then see how they can get paid doing that. Yeah. It saves so much time, so much headache. And I mean, honestly, you'd be so much happier.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that even in like when we talk to the clients that my husband and I work with, it just seems like toward the end of transition, it's just all so rushed, right? It's all so rushed. You get all these things thrown your way, all these last minute decisions or things you're hearing about for the first time to make a decision of within the next 24 hours, if anything, that it's just all so rushed that it doesn't surprise me that, they end up quitting that first job in post military. And then even more so, the percentage you mentioned, that more so of them like quit within the second year. And I am curious to know from your perspective, it's like when would be an ideal time, and when can they think of like what do they actually want to do when they quote unquote grow up? Because when you think about the military life, it's very easy to get caught up in the routine of it, which is why it seems like a lot of transitioning service members like just also rushed, because it almost feels like it comes out of the blue. And I know in your situation it was very abrupt, but when do you think would be a good time, and luckily you as a career coach are able to capture these people and kind of wake them up to the opportunity. But if it didn't have to be so last minute, when would you say would be the perfect time, to start thinking about this?
Yeah. And you know what? That's tough.
Yeah.
And just even my own experience, like I thought I was just going to, join 4 years and, be on my way. But I had a couple of re-enlistments and ended up staying, and I liked it. And then I didn't like it, and I liked it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, as early as they can, I mean, even if you're not thinking about transitioning out, it's always good to kind of think about like, what do you like to do? What do you enjoy doing? What are you good at? You got to combine the two. This is the tricky part, right? Because you can like something and be terrible at it. Like I like playing basketball. However, I will never be in the NBA.
Right.
So, they do have to be pretty close as far as what you enjoy and what you're good at. But if you can find out what you're passionate about early, so, for transitioning, a year or two out, 2 years or even more, would be great.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't think about it till 1 year, 6 months out. Someone in my last class my class was on a Friday and they were out of the Army Monday. And I'm like, it's a little late to build your network, but we're going to start right now.
Yeah. Better late than never.
Yeah, we built it right then and there. But, so as early as you can will be the best. But, sometimes you're not thinking about that. And that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
You just got to realize, once you figure out what you're passionate about, life is awesome.
That's wonderful. And clearly you're in a great place in your career that you really get to enjoy helping out your fellow, service members and veterans. And I think it's great. Like clearly you love what you do, because I feel like we had a whole different podcast episode just now talking about your work with Wounded Warriors. And I think it's great. It's great. Clearly you enjoy what you do. And I just appreciate like having this conversation with you. And let's figure out how to conclude this. I mean, I want to make sure that you share everything you want to share to our community. And, holding down the fort for season 7 is really more hyper focused on the transitioning service member and military retirees. And so, based on your journey, like if you didn't mention this already, is there anything else you want to say to speak to our community that you haven't already said?
Yeah, I'll probably just repeat it. But, I really think that it's important that if you feel strongly about doing something that, you go for it. I know it's a little contradictory since I haven't made that leap yet fully, but, I just feel like you can do a lot more than just work a 9 to 5. And, if you want to work a 9 to 5, that's great. I mean, I don't mind it. Yeah. But, you don't have to. And then honestly, the weirdest business ideas happen just by trying. Honestly, I didn't think I'd be, becoming a business. I thought I'd just make some cool stuff for like family members for Christmas or, holidays. And then people are like, hey, like, how much do you charge for that? And it just kind of was like, oh, well, I haven't really thought about that. So, I just feel like once you start doing something and you really enjoy it and you find out people pay you for it, you're probably in the best place of your life. You just got to really just continue to grow from there.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like you were kind of coaching yourself up just now also.
I'm right on the edge, right?
Yeah. Well, we hope that you make it over the edge and would really love to continue following your journey, Jacob. And I think, this season of your life is just as valid as even the early stages of you starting your club to, and I do hope that it turns into a business. And, this is probably the worst advice that goes against all your other mentors, but I don't think there's any rush, especially if you already are happy with a lot of things in your life. And the fact that you have a good business or a good business model that people like, that you got customers for, like you said, I think there's going to be a moment where you're going to know when it's time to really turn it on. And until then, you're doing a lot of self-education. You're openly talking about it, which I think is another thing too, because now you're going to have people reach out and say, hey, Jacob, did you do it? Did you finalize it? Did you actually, do an LLC? Did you, finally get married, figuratively speaking? And it's my hope that, our listeners and your community will, hold you accountable to that. And even if you don't go all the way, like, hey, it's your business, it's your life, it's your consequences, it's your family that you want to spend time with. And I just appreciate you sharing this, because I think a lot of times when people come on a show, they feel like they have to be like polished, or they have to like act like they've quote unquote made it. And I don't always care about featuring that. So thank you for just being so candid and transparent about your journey into entrepreneurship right now.
Yeah. I mean, that's how you're always going to get me. Yeah. I'm authentic. So, I mean, you're going to get what I deliver. I don't care if it's, stuttering or wrong, I'm going to tell you exactly how I feel. Yeah. And what I've been through, just because I feel like that's how more people relate. Absolutely. They're not going to relate to me being perfect. I've made a lot of mistakes. I'm still making them, and it's okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I feel like everyone just needs to know that.
Absolutely. Yeah. What I love about even just the entrepreneurial mind and entrepreneurial minded people, aspiring entrepreneurs, is just that mindset of humility and modesty. And it's like, hey, I don't know all the answers. I'm not perfect. I'm not polished. And we're all just trying to figure it out. We're all just trying to figure out like the right business model or the marketing message that can better serve other people. So thank you for your authenticity and for being candid with me. And I apologize for like the impromptu pep talk, but I do hope it was helpful.
No, it was perfect.
Thank you. And with that said, Jacob, thank you again so much for being on our show. It's been such a pleasure chatting with you. And to our listeners, we hope you got a lot of value out of this, and we'll chat with you in the next episode. Tune in next time. Hey, this is your host, Jen Amos. Thanks again for listening to today's episode of Holding Down the Fort by US VetWealth. Visit holdingdownthefortpodcast.com to access the full show notes of this episode, including resources mentioned and bonus content. Once again, that's holdingdownthefortpodcast.com. Lastly, stay after this outro music for something a little extra. Thanks again and chat soon. Bye for now. All right. Well, thanks again, everyone, for watching this conversation, watching or listening, which, by the way, if you are listening to this and you're like, wait, watch? I can watch this? Yes, you're actually able to watch this on our YouTube channel. So go ahead and check that out in the show notes of this episode, how to find our YouTube channel. You can also do a search of Holding Down the Fort by US VetWealth, and you'll be able to find our YouTube channel that way. But yeah, I want to thank all of you for taking the time to listen to the show. I hope that you got a lot of value from it, even with my different audio quality. That's what I'm calling it, different audio quality. And I just want to make a comment here about my audio quality. It's definitely something I am self-conscious about. Just to give you all some background, I recorded the majority of these conversations in the summertime. And then it was only in the post-production time, which was, I believe it was like end of August, beginning of September was when we started to put these in post-production. And that was when my editor brought it up to me that the audio quality on my end was different than normal. And I had to go through a grieving process. I mean, I had this whole idea of like re-recording my audio quality and narrating instead. And long story short, because of the schedule, because of all the things that I do outside of the podcast as well, like work for my company, US VetWealth, it just wasn't practical for me to, do a whole new recording. And so I come to you all humbly as an award-winning podcaster to say, welcome to my show. And this is what an award-winning podcaster looks like, is someone who embraces the imperfection of producing a show. And I want to thank you for making it this far to hear this message. And, there's a phrase that I'll end us all with that goes something like, you can say the right things to the wrong person and they won't understand. You can say the wrong things to the right person and they will understand. And so it's my hope that despite the audio quality, some of you are probably like, Jen, I can hear you. It's totally fine. Some of you are like that, right? But for everyone else that's probably listening to a podcast for the first time, you're probably thinking like, I don't think audio quality should sound like this. I do want to apologize. And I do want to thank you for your grace. And with that said, I actually have a lot to talk about with podcasting in our free podcast portal. So if you're interested in hearing more about this and, wanting to understand like, hey, Jen, why didn't you just do it anyway? Why didn't you just re-record and make your audio quality sound better? Well, I'm happy to answer those questions for you in our free podcast portal. Once again, you can go to holdingdownthefortpodcast.com/portal. And not only will you have access to extra commentary and bonus content, but you'll also get free resources, free financial, educational resources from my company here, US VetWealth, especially for those who are military retirees or you're a career military family transitioning, and you're really just looking to have a better understanding of what your options are, not just in the government, because we already know the government benefits and we have resources for that, but also in the private market. So if that's something for you, once again, a free podcast portal, holdingdownthefortpodcast.com/portal. Anyway, thank you for this post commentary. Jacob, thanks again for being on the show. And I hope that this episode really resonates with all of you, that you had some main takeaways. And my hope is that you were also inspired by the fact that we showed up imperfect as possible. And yet I still felt like we had an incredible conversation. So thank you so much. And we'll chat with you in the next episode. Tune in next time.